They sent the kill order confirmation at 0312 hours, station time. I know because I was the one who logged it. I have logged a great many things in my career. Intercepts, damage assessments, casualty projections, fleet positioning data, the bureaucratic skeleton of a war that had been grinding for 4 years before the Vareth Dominion made the decision that ended it. I have always been good at logging things without feeling them. That is, I was told when I was recruited, the primary qualification for this work. I want to be honest about what I felt when the final transmission from the Ardent Meridian came through my station at 0047 hours that same morning. Nothing. At first. The way your hand goes numb before it starts to hurt. The Ardent Meridian was the flagship of Medical Evacuation Convoy 7 Bravo. 15 ships, hospital marked, broadcasting standard ceasefire identification on all recognized channels. The convoy was carrying 4,200 wounded soldiers out of the Kalindra theater. Most of them had already been through surgery. Some of them were awake and talking to one another in the recovery bays when the Vareth intercepted the convoy at the Hessa transit corridor. I have listened to the final 43 minutes of transmission from the Ardent Meridian more times than I should have. Commander Selavrena's voice does not change register for the first 22 minutes. She is reporting an unscheduled intercept, flagging the ceasefire codes as active and broadcasting, requesting clarification from the Varath formation. Her voice is professional, steady. She had done this before. Varath intercepts at transit corridors were not unheard of. They checked credentials. They asked questions. They let the convoys pass. At minute 23, her voice changes. Not because she is afraid. I want to be precise about that. Commander Vren does not sound afraid. She sounds like someone who has just understood something that she will not be given time to record properly, and she is doing her best anyway. They're not asking for credentials, she says. They have already decided. I don't know what the calculus was. I don't know what we were on the other side of their ledger. Convoy 7 Bravo is broadcasting ceasefire identification on all channels. We are a medical evacuation. We have 4,200 wounded aboard 15 ships. A pause. 8 seconds. I want that number in the record. 4,200. The transmission ends at minute 43. It does not end dramatically. The carrier signal drops. That is all. I have been asked, in the years since, what I thought the Varath Dominion was. Whether I believed they were evil, in any sense that the word applies to a civilization that eliminated emotive processing from its decision architecture 3,000 years before we met them. The honest answer is that I do not think evil is the correct framework. The Varath did not hate our wounded. They did not feel contempt for the ceasefire codes we broadcast. They ran a calculation. The calculation determined that 4,200 recovering human soldiers, returned to active service, would cost the Dominion more in projected casualties over the following 18 months than the diplomatic consequences of destroying a marked medical convoy. The calculation was, by their own internal logic, correct. They had done similar calculations before. They had run them on resource allocation, on territory acquisition, on which civilizations to absorb and which to ignore. The Dominion had not survived for 11,000 years by allowing sentiment to distort their projections. They were, by every measure they used to evaluate such things, a success. What they could not calculate, what they had no framework to model, was what we would do when the math stopped mattering to us. The intelligence summary reached Earth Command at 0210 hours. I delivered it myself. I had asked to, and my supervisor had not argued. I will not describe the room. I will say only that the people in it were not surprised. The Vareth Dominion had been categorized, early in the conflict, as a post-emotional decision architecture. We had war-gamed the possibility of a medical convoy intercept. It had appeared in projections. It had been assessed as low probability. Low probability had just killed 4,200 people. General Heron Solis read my summary in 4 minutes and 17 seconds. I know because I timed it, the way you do when you are trying to stay inside your own skull. When he set it down, he did not raise his voice. He did not slam anything. He looked at the table for a moment, in the way that men of a certain age look at things when they are doing their arithmetic in private. "What's the current Pale Reckoning readiness status?" he said. The Pale Reckoning was a fleet designation that had existed in Earth Command's contingency architecture for 14 months. It was not a secret weapon. It was not a surprise. The ships existed, the crews were assigned, the standing order framework had been drafted and reviewed. It required authorization at the highest level to activate. That authorization had never been given, because the threshold had never been crossed. Commander of Fleet Operations I.E. Marchetti pulled up the readiness status without being asked twice. 340 warships, full operational readiness, 6-hour staging window. General Solis nodded once. Draft the activation order. The entire exchange took 11 minutes. From the moment I set my summary on that table to the moment the Pale Reckoning went from contingency to standing kill order, 11 minutes passed. I logged it at 0311 hours. The confirmation came through at 0312. I am not a military officer. I am an intelligence analyst. I have no gift for the language of battles, for the tactical vocabulary that describes what 340 warships do when they arrive at a system with a standing kill order and no recall clause. Other people have written those accounts. They are in the record. What I can tell you is what I pieced together from intercept traffic, from after-action reports, from the dry columns of data that crossed my station over the following 19 days. The Varath Dominion held 6 systems, 41 military installations of significant operational capacity, a fleet of their own, smaller than ours, but not without weight. They had won engagements before. They had projected, based on the diplomatic consequences of the Convoy intercept and Earth's assessed response capacity, that we would deploy a punitive force. They had modeled the scale. They had calculated acceptable losses. Their projected Earth response was a force of 60 to 80 warships, targeted strikes. A statement. 340 warships is not a statement. I have read the Dominion's internal intercept traffic from the moment the Pale Reckoning dropped out of transit at the edge of the Varath home system. The translation is imperfect. The Varath did not build their language for expressing things that their decision architecture could not process. But the closest rendering of the fleet commander's transmission back to the Dominion's central calculation node, in the first 4 minutes after our arrival, is something like, this variable was not in the model. 6 systems, 19 days, methodical. The Pale Reckoning did not race. It did not improvise. It moved through the Dominion space the way water moves through a thing that is no longer intact, finding every space, filling it, and leaving nothing standing behind it. Each installation was approached, assessed, and eliminated in the order that minimized Earth casualties and maximized certainty of outcome. No heroics. No speeches broadcast on open channels. No demands for surrender. We were not there to negotiate. That time had passed at the Hesse transit corridor. The Dominion attempted to open diplomatic channels on the 4th day. The transmission was logged, acknowledged with a one-line response from Earth Command. The Pale Reckoning operates under a standing kill order. There is no diplomatic channel to this command. And the fleet continued. On the 19th day, the last Varath installation of significant operational capacity was eliminated. The fleet held position for 72 hours. No further Varath military assets appeared. Earth Command reviewed the after-action data and issued the stand-down. I was on duty when the stand-down came through. I logged it the way I log everything. People ask me, sometimes, whether I think it was just. I think it is the wrong question. Justice implies a scale, a weighing, a point at which accounts balance. I am not certain accounts can balance for 4,200 people whose carrier signal simply dropped at minute 43. What I know is this. The Varath Dominion ran a calculation. They decided that eliminating our wounded was worth the cost. They built that cost into their model and concluded it was manageable. They did not have a variable for what we become when we are done grieving. I think about Commander Selavren sometimes. I think about the 8 seconds of silence after she said 4,200, and how she used them, not to break down, not to transmit something personal, something that would not survive in any official record. She used them to make sure the number was in the log. She knew someone would read it. She was right. We read it. All of us. We read it in 11 minutes, and then we built the answer, and then we sent it. That is what the Varath could not put in their model. Not that we would be angry, not that we would grieve, that we would count.